Go gadget, green screen. This should be a good live show today, even though crypto's looking a little bit more boring. However, there's a lot of stuff in store that we have with the SEC potentially going after more and more cryptos, particularly altcoins that are non-monetary coins. So monetary coins are things like Litecoin and Dash, maybe even Monero. Monetary coins because they're not a company and they're not a business. Founders don't have 80% of the tokens, all that, and they're all proof of work. But there's a lot of stuff going on with Russia having hit, supposedly a missile that went over to Poland, killed a couple people, sparking NATO fears. A lot of jitters in the market right now. So that could mean the stock market and Bitcoin, the plans for going sideways through the beginning of December, the jitters in the market might make that plan happen a little bit earlier. So what I want to do in this video here, let me go ahead and get prepared so I can start recording. I have projected that Bitcoin won't make a next leg down until early through mid-December for reasons I've covered extensively on my channel, my last few Bitcoin videos. If you're a new viewer, you might want to go ahead and watch my most recent Bitcoin videos. They will provide you an analysis about Bitcoin price, both short-term, mid-term, and long-term, just in the last 3 videos that you won't find anywhere else, given the tools that I developed myself and I used in there to show you why I feel that way and why it should be probable. With that, so that applies to both stocks and Bitcoin, which are moving together. It looks like it won't really have a next leg down, new lows until mid-December. But current events, NATO scare, jitters in the market, a missile hitting Poland and all that stuff, that could cause jitters in the market, which accelerate those plans. Therefore, a more expedited version of what we were thinking, which would be the first time it's ever happened in Bitcoin, per the situation on my last few videos, right? Going under the origin line, it looks like it wants to hit its head for a whole month. It looks like with the market jitters that might not happen. It might happen sooner. So what I want to do in this video is I want to summarize just the general shape, not all the reasons why, the general shape and length of time that you would expect Bitcoin to mess around with this origin line up here, to get a visual. And then I want to provide you with a threshold on when you could say to yourself, actually two different thresholds. One threshold where you start saying, warning sign, this might break down sooner than this. And then the next threshold that I'm gonna give you the probability flood, where the probabilities flood drastically. It's almost the point of no return, like an event horizon, but not quite that extreme. I might be the king of Bitcoin, but I don't know how to make black holes. So essentially the probability pivot point, the warning sign, hey, it just became slightly improbable that that situation Tim's been describing happens, and then I'll show you the threshold of when it's obviously gonna accelerate down and not mess around with this origin line again, and until after the next leg down. So let's go ahead and jump into this Bitcoin price and go get it. My buttons weren't working. I don't know why I didn't. You're supposed to see that that intro thing that's 11 seconds long or whatever. All right. What you see on the chart right now are the bumpers that are in play on Bitcoin price. This is what I have on my live chart that is right now only available to my Cryptillion YouTube tier and my Discord all tier, both tiers. If you want to copy this, that is fine. And honestly, it's probably a good idea. So I'm on the 15-minute time frame, and it only goes to Monday the 14th when Bitcoin made this low down here. Okay, I don't think it was the yeah. So it wasn't the big drawdown. It was the first higher low. And that's what it looks like on the 15-minute chart. All right. Now, these should be your bumpers for, let's say, through Monday of next week. I think whatever Bitcoin does, it will interact only with levels, EMAs, bumpers, whatever you want to call them, between this green line and the origin line. The green line's already been swiped under. So, it might not be hit again, but sometimes, you get some bearish stuff, it bounces on it before it tries up. But regardless, I think Bitcoin right now is working. So those are essentially my limitations for this week. On a percentage basis, that's about a 10% range. However, since the liquidity was grabbed under this macro channel line, which for new viewers, I'll zoom out and show you why this is very important right here. And why I gave an alert to my community. Hey, this is going to swoop. Before it happened, it's on this live stream for public, so you could go back and watch me say it. But I was given an alert to my community about right here saying, hey, it's going to bust below the blue line. It's going to swoop under the green one, and it's going to go up for the first several days of the week, which is what has happened so far. What did I just do? Having all sorts of freaking technical difficulties right now. So in general, if you want to have the overall scope of how far Bitcoin will move this week, you're staring at it. And a lot of people prefer to watch the candles bounce on my chart. That's why, that's why it might be beneficial to check out the Cryptillion YouTube tier or the Discord community. So you don't have to do your own, you don't have to draw your own lines. You can just pull up your phone and watch this on the lines act as the bumpers for Bitcoin price. If I must say though, that it does look like Bitcoin wants to swipe up to the origin line, which wow, I am having almost zero luck today. It disappeared for me. Son of a bitch. Why is this happening? Okay, now it's there. Why is it disappeared on my 15-minute chart? Okay, it's there. Oh, TradingView decided to work and put it back. Fantastic. Nope, now it's gone again. Holy cow. 30-minute, it works. Am I crazy? Are you seeing this? Now it's gone. Now it's back on the 5-minute chart. Well, fantastic. So we are discriminatory against 15-minute chart. Whatever. All right, so this is the range of Bitcoin and where it will have bumps and bruises, and these are your bumpers, essentially like a pinball machine. So I guess I'm going to have to use the 30-minute chart right now. So feel free to copy this. So therefore, not a whole lot of excitement because Bitcoin is in the middle of this, range for the week. So to the upside, if you get a swoop above the origin line, that's 5% move on Bitcoin, which for altcoins, that could be a nice play, especially hot ones like Atom, Matic, all that kind of stuff. So for newer viewers, this is what, let me clean up the chart. Okay, this is pretty much all of Bitcoin price, right? And then, boom, origin lines. The lowest ever origin line that's been touched was back when Bitcoin was under about $2. And for the first time since then, or essentially since forever, the rules of these origin lines say that Bitcoin must touch it before it can aggressively get above here and stay above this line. I need to make a tutorial video, that I can just link every time I get a new viewer who just doesn't believe that these lines work, because it is hard to believe. But returning viewers, we've been over this enough. You all realize that they work. And so just realize that's what's at stake. And if this were to happen, so getting off of the low time frames, we're moving on to we're looking at 13.5, and this goes to the 64K top, this little channel here. And this would happen the middle of December. And a lot of the ways that there are only 5 ways that Bitcoin can behave once you get a move similar to this one that comes down to an origin line. We've been able to rule out 2 of the 5. One is, and they're polar opposites. One is that's the bottom, because Bitcoin bottoms align with an origin line, often a wick below it, but the daily close is right at it. So the bottom end, okay, that's not happening. Cross that out. There are only 4 other ways. It zooms through this and hits the next one down or more. I think the most it's ever done is it skipped 2. Yeah, it skipped 1, 2, and hit the third one down in one fell swoop before. That's not going to happen. The other 3, as I made very long videos on this, but the other 3 in general, 1, it requires Bitcoin to use this as support, and if you see that happening, then 19K to 21K would be about as high as it will go, because it does not have permission to go any higher given the rules of these origin lines. However, we can rule that out for now because Bitcoin has not used this as support yet, outside of the very first day that it hit it, which is why at that exact snapshot in time, it was my favorite, fractal, or the way Bitcoin moves in this situation with an origin line. So right now, there are only 2 of 5 situations, possible, quote unquote, that Bitcoin, how Bitcoin will behave. And did I save these darn fractals? Oh, please tell me I did. There we go. Yes, I did. All right. All the scribbles down here, I would have to be on a lower time frame. So these 3 price paths I'm not going to show you. I gave my community an update showing if something new is going to happen that hasn't ever happened in Bitcoin before, which namely, it doesn't go sideways here and interact with this origin line for about 30 days, 15 to 30. As the rules say, that's what will happen. But with FTX, it's now Russia and NATO, it could send it down. And so you could just rewind the video. That's roughly what would happen. I'm not going to go over that, though. That was for paid community stuff. I didn't realize it was going to pop it up. And that would be something new. Bitcoin has never behaved like that before. These 2 are what is on the table. This is the red one, so it uses this as resistance. Yes. Something to this effect. So in general, the way Bitcoin is most likely to behave at this, in this moment of time is like this. So right now, every time that Bitcoin falls heavily to an origin line and does not, within the next 48 to 72 hours, go to the next one, because that's a capitulation type of move, right? Things really get let loose. In that situation, it always goes sideways for about this length of time. And I pull these fractals from exact, very similar moments. This fractal is still in play. This is the fractal that essentially rides both sides of the origin line. This technically could happen still, but it's not really in play until Bitcoin gets over this origin line and uses as support at least on a couple of 5 to 15 minute oscillations. However, it's still in play, but right now it's invalid. So we're left with literally 1 fractal right now that is by far the most probable. Yes, this is technically still in play. It saddles both sides of the origin line, but we're going to know when to bring this back into our scope. That's when price gets back above this origin line, and it's not, right? And so you can see from this point of view that Bitcoin seems like it's poised to want to play with that line. And when I go back down to the micro timeframes with my live chart lines, you can see this full circle. Hopefully my origin line is there on the, no, wow. TradingView, what are you doing? All right, anyway, see that origin line up there? It's the same line. Now, the reason I don't think this is the week that Bitcoin goes drastically over this line, okay, now to more midterm time frame stuff as well, is actually the futures of of SPX, or the, let's see here. Yeah, this is what I want. Take off the weekly 10. So the reason why I don't think Bitcoin is going to initiate a large, 5% move above the origin line, which is still in play. It can easily happen. It's allowed to do it within the rules. But why I think, something signaling even more strongly in favor of that red fractal, where Bitcoin just bumps its head on it, might go 1% above, 2% maybe, which would be about 17,600 if it goes about 1 or 2% above. Is this what you're looking at right here? This is the top of the stock market right there. And it's in the macro channel. This is as high above the top macro channel line that it's gone in a big bull trap before it accelerated down, made new lows. It's gone to this line again and got rejected, and trying to do some wizard magic here. Watch this. See that? Check that out. So this 40.21 is pointing to the line, and I expected it to go above the line, right? And I have not moved it. I haven't moved it. I've only made it opacity. I turned the opacity down. It's behaving almost exactly as what I was thinking. So now that you've gotten that move and a rejection from it, I think it needs to come down and touch this line. I believe it's going to run out of steam, especially with the whole Russia stuff. Honestly, I would expect it to break down more quickly as opposed to do something I'm not expecting to the upside. With current market jitters and global jitters. And this line right here is Monday. So during the weekend, I should probably mark off Friday also, Friday afternoon at about this time right here. So when it's between these two lines, the market will close and it won't actually, you won't see this here because it'll be closed and it actually opens up a little bit before this line. But on Monday, I would expect it one more try up because people, retail traders, institutional traders, I think they're going to want it to be a buy Monday. And so it's specifically in tune to Bitcoin this week going sideways, and I've been saying that is the range of Bitcoin through the rest of this week. And here's why. Here's what's going to happen the rest of this week. I've already guessed this. It's following it almost precisely. And I don't see any reason to think that's not going to happen until I see this used as support or this used as resistance. And I will know the exact probability flips. So here's the threshold number one. These lines on the US 500 chart. So on TradingView, you could type in US 500, hit enter, and just try to copy these lines. I'm on the 1 hour chart. You don't have to go all the way back in price and make it look like my channel. These are the only two in play. Bitcoin is moving with this. So your threshold on whether Tim is right or wrong to the upside or downside, right? It goes outside of that, 10% range that I was talking about. This will show you. If US 500, which trades during the night, and SPX doesn't, right? So this is the futures of the S&P 500. If it gets above and uses that as support on even something tiny like 5-minute candles, that is the exact point where that's the probability flip. At that exact instant, it's like it becomes 51% likely that I'm wrong. And Bitcoin will go above my range, right? And make a move potentially to 19K. And the shelf life of this is through Monday. To the downside, if I'm wrong to the downside, you're going to see the SPX. Like, if Bitcoin goes below there, it's because SPX is going below here. Most likely. Extreme, very, very, very likely. So this is also your threshold to the downside. Like, and I know this might be uncomfortable for people who, I don't know, you just don't believe Bitcoin moves with the stock market. It does. And these lines are probably going to get it right. So if you want these are the thresholds that will coincide with thresholds that I'm about ready to give you on Bitcoin, which technically we've already seen because It's just those, it's just my live chart. How do I make myself small again? I think my button master is messed up. My stream deck, sorry. Let's see here, I wanna go to the bottom. All right, so I would say that SPX going below that line, it actually might coincide with Bitcoin going below this instead of the green line. I don't know which one, as SPX, if it were to break down below that, the bottom line, I'm not for sure if Bitcoin will be using this as resistance or using this as resistance. So that is I don't know if it's a nuance, but keep that in mind. This could actually be the thing that aligns with it because it's the breakdown point of the current Bitcoin shape, which is some, pattern traders would call this an inverse head and shoulders. But to the upside, it will be identical. If SPX is using that upper line as support, then Bitcoin will be using the origin line as support. That is what would happen in that case. But there are two options to the downside. And I would maybe call it this. To the downside, it's actually kind of convenient because this would be, let's say Bitcoin is going below this and using it as resistance. I would call that it, but SPX is still above that line. I still think the probabilities flip. That there's a 50, that's exactly when it becomes 51% likely that I'm going to be wrong and it will break below this range. Even though it hasn't broken below this yet, which was part of my range. But it becomes likely that it will at that time. The probability flood, when it becomes obviously very, very probable, is not just a couple candles below, but it's if it uses it as resistance on the way back up. It will test it. It's not just going to flood below. The Bitcoin's not ready to get volatile like that yet. So you have to wait until, if it were to come down here, wait to get resistance. And then if it starts coming out after hitting its head on that line, that's the probability flood right there. I mean, you're going to have extreme chances of trading to the downside being the correct movement. All right. But until then, I think it's just going to be filling out a shape. If I had to guess specifically, I would guess through Monday, it'll bounce between 1620 in this line if I had to tighten up my range. And that should make it about an 8% range. Yeah. And I feel that way because it's already swooped below the channel line twice. I don't see it happening again. I think it'll use this one as the next liquidity grab before the opposite move. All right. So that would be my specific guess. But for the sake of YouTube, I want a bigger range so I have less chance of embarrassing myself, if I may be honest. And so these are all the reasons put together that I'm thinking sideways action through this week, and exact levels what to look for, and a second chart to get agreement. Hey, this is an alert signal. SPX is going below here, or the US 500. US 500, it wasn't SPX. US 500 chart's going below those lines. Be on the warning sign. And where's Bitcoin on Tim's live chart? Oh, it is exactly where he said. You'll be able to put all those things together and then make a quicker decision, or you will have guidance in making quicker technical analysis decisions on your own part. And I think this analysis should get you through the next 5 or 6 days. And yeah, even if I'm wrong, I showed you exactly how I will be wrong. I mean, how cool is that? And I let you know what another chart would be doing in the exact moments I'm wrong either way. So if I'm wrong in this, then I'm not going to feel bad about it because I think I fully prepared everybody for that event. But that is what we got, and that is Bitcoin. Let's move on to Ethereum. All right. I'm really glad there are fewer questions today because it's my 14. Yeah, it's my 14-year anniversary. So I can't stay too long today. All right. I mean, Ethereum price to me is, I'm not really heavily looking at it as an indicator, although I usually do. Just after this proof of stake stuff and the SEC getting a little bit more involved, I don't know. However, I do like trading it. It is more volatile and it's still being pretty predictable. So similar to Bitcoin, you have, actually, let me put it like, here we go. Ethereum price has a similar setup to what Bitcoin has going on, per the Bitcoin video that I recorded today on November 15th. There's an ascending origin line that is acting as massive resistance, right? And this goes back to the very beginning of Ethereum's price action. Very important origin line. Bitcoin is playing with the same thing. Each of them have, I guess, a range lows, and they're trying to see if they can get above here. So it's essentially a battle of which will break first. This support, or will the resistance break first? That's literally the only war that's going on right now with technically Bitcoin and Ethereum price. And it's going to be obvious when the next expansion, when honestly, on a larger time frame, like 2 days, things are already expanding. But you're going to have oscillations within that larger time frame that you can't see on that big time frame. But if you were to zoom in on a microscope, it's actually going like this, right? So right now, we're just going in the opposite direction of expansion, which is less volatile, but it's getting ready to expand. So when that happens, you're only dealing with two different things: which support will break first, which resistance will break first. And so let's dive into the Ethereum chart to see where it would go in either case. Ready? And when that might happen. Okay, and again, you're gonna want to watch, if you're watching the recording of this and you haven't watched my Bitcoin analysis, I just let you know, it's gonna be a lot clearer. The signals on Bitcoin, when something really moves up or down and you get a full move out of it, like 8+%, it's going to be obvious. And it's going to be obvious on different, on US 500 chart as well. You're gonna wanna see that. It should be obvious on Ethereum as well. However, here are your levels. Actually, I'm missing one. So the middle of your range is right around 1220. Might call it 1221. So if it breaks below 1221, the obvious next target is right here. And if it breaks below there, well, then that means Bitcoin is going below its bottom target as well. So just use it like this. So we can essentially recalibrate our thought process. This is being defended. Either this will break first or this will break first. That is it. Right? Technically, you could argue that this is here, but the origin line is going to trump it, right? This line is more important than this macro horizontal, even though they're both pretty important, but it's the origin line so close that it'll cause price to go above that, this horizontal right here, and mess with the origin line. So that's why I'm ignoring this line right here, because it's too close to the origin line, and the origin line will trump it. And this box here is made from weekly candlesticks and candle bodies, or wicks and bodies from 2017. All right, so right now, which will break first? This horizontal or the origin line? If the origin line is broken and you see it used as support, even on 5-minute oscillations, your next obvious target is right here. The next one is there, the next one is here. Those are your next three targets. And it's going to be so obvious that it's getting ready to go climb up to want to touch those, because it has to get above this origin line first. It's that simple. It's going to be obvious, I'm telling you. Just like when the weekly 10 EMA was crossing below the weekly 89 EMA, and I made all those cross bad videos saying it's going to be a bloody 2022, as a lot of influencers were saying altcoin season 2022, and it was obvious to me. So, and I anticipate it's going to be exceedingly obvious here. But right now, is anything obvious? No. You either have to break this point or this point for it to be obvious. That's it. Until then, it's just flapping around, and your probabilities flip on each pass of this middle line. Right now, you have essentially three options: go sideways, break above here, or break below here. So right now, until the middle line is broken, you're only thinking about two: continued boring and sideways, which honestly is what I mainly expect, because Bitcoin should be bumping its head on its origin line too. at least until early next week, or break up. But when it crosses below here, you can stop thinking about these targets and then start looking for next targets down. Am I making sense there? Okay. So the next target's down. It's going to be this. And remember, when or maybe not remember, new viewers, when I make specifically black shapes on my chart, they're almost always hit. I mean, my KDA fans can vouch for that. I mean, it's way over 50%. Should I leave? Am I going to leave that black triangle there? Yeah, I am actually. It's past December. Okay, so the next, if things start breaking down, you have another origin line that it already is ruled that it must be hit before price can sustainably stay above here, right? Sustainably. It does have permission for, it's 10% move above here on a failure pattern, which actually would make it easier to short, because once it goes back below here, that's when it will race to this origin line. But your next target, it's time dependent. If it happens sooner, let's say, because I'm guessing the breakdown won't happen until the second week of December. So this is about, let me go to a 2-hour chart so we can see this. Depending on when it occurs, those would be your next two targets. But on a wick basis, you have a massive horizontal just under this. So let's go to see what this is. Massive horizontal, like I said. But it's just under the origin line. So how do you reconcile that? Well, it's going to wick below the origin line and come back up to it, or use it as resistance. Even more bearish. But I think this line will be hit. So then on the next move down, it is possible that the 10s hold, the low thousands. But even if it does hold, I think it will wick down to touch that first. Bare minimum. On a wick basis. Like, it might literally only be there for 5 minutes. And that covers my expectations of sideways on a timing basis, specifically how Ethereum will behave if it were to break up to where it would go, and then the downside targets, and specifically what you're going to be looking for if those downside targets are initiated. And then in the meantime, as it's just flopping around, how to focus what your expectations on price are. Above this line, you're thinking two possibilities: more sideways, or it's going to try to break above this origin line. Or if it goes below here, you only have two things in mind as well: more sideways, or it's going to potentially break down below here. And if either of them, if it breaks down below, it's going to be extremely obvious, because it's going to use this as resistance, then head down fairly aggressively. So this analysis on Ethereum, feel free to go back, at points in this video where you can copy the chart. Put these lines on your chart. It's going to help you, I promise. I'm not always I don't have a perfect track record of guessing exactly how price will interact with the bumpers. But my track record of knowing what the bumpers are and what's in play, my track record's very, very, very good with that. So therefore, it would be very beneficial if you just took the time to put these lines on your chart, because these are going to be the bumpers very, very, very likely. All right. And either way, what happens, it's going to make things more obvious. Is that always the case with Ethereum price? No. Right now, it's going to be super obvious, because you have macro things in play, and they're all jammed together. All right. See ya. Okay. That is Ethereum. I said see you to the recording. Whew. Okay. So Thurman, so for the Cryptillion tier in YouTube, so Thurman's asking about, hey, can I do bottom targets for BTC, ADA, and DOT and Link? I've already posted all of those, and it hasn't changed since I posted them for the YouTube tier. That's also in Discord in the crypt. No, I put it on the daily update, so you'd have to use the search function, or just scroll down until you see them. It was only last week or the week before. But for the YouTube tier, you might just have to scroll, or if there's a search function, just search. I labeled it, so you can search for ADA or search for DOT and link. And honestly, those three might be on the same exact post. Those ones might have been together because it's my anniversary and I don't want to go through it all again. And I already posted it for you. If you're in the loyalty tier, yeah, you might not have access to that stuff. That would be the only failure point on that. But for Bitcoin, I mean, we have the red, just real quick. I mean, there are three major things in play. It's possible that this red line holds, that's it. Because Bitcoin price has never been below this origin line. Ever. So there's your level there. If it breaks below it, then it's going here. If it breaks below that, then it's going here. It's that simple. And the average slope should stay on this orange line. That's the 64K top. Those are the targets. But just realize if this is hit, it's going to wick below there to go grab the 9600 CME gap fill. And those are your targets. Just literally take the average slope. Let me make myself smaller. And my Discord and Cryptillion tiers, I made my daily update video today. It shows you specifically how to create this. So you know the average slope. So from a time perspective, at any point in time, if Bitcoin is taking a massive leg down, right, you can go use this with an origin line to try to tell, okay, this is probably where it's going. Or, yeah, or say to yourself, it's at least going here because it's below one origin line. It's got to hit the next one down, but the average slope is this. So where it aligns, that's probably where it's headed at any moment in time. And that was from the daily up today. I gave you the exact coordinates on the exact day, exact wicks, and everything. But for everybody else, the visual, that's what we got for Bitcoin. All right. Sol has finally, hell no, Sol is not done bottoming. Those were just, it hit my bottom target from when it was 150 bucks. It was, the reason I gave these targets, okay. The reason I gave these bear market targets below for Sol so early that I got comments, saying I'm stupid, I'm ignorant, I'm crazy, or whatever, right? I did it because I already knew that everything was going to lose 95% of its value. Whatever, long before it happened. And because it's not my first cycle. Like anybody else in the crypto space, not even a TA person, knows that everything is going to lose 95%. So I just all I did was measure, right? This is not fancy. Look at that, 95%. Is that a coincidence? No. That's why I was making videos way back here. Okay? Literally here. No matter what, $12 to $22 is where Solana's going, right? That video. But anyway, the reason I made those is I did it mostly to try to slap the class of 2021 in the face. Like, wake up. Everything's going down. And Solana was a hot name. And so I needed to, I did it for a visual. Now that the whole FTX stuff, and its connections and support for Solana, and it's already hit it, when the stock market clearly has not bottomed, and Bitcoin has clearly not separated from the stock market, those two things combined, it's going lower. And these are my targets. Because they stay on the average slope of the entire bear market. And if at any point in time that there's a strong down move, it's extremely likely it will hit the bottom of this. So let's say price recovers, boom, 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 boom. And then there's some crazy sell-off in crypto. Vroom, where's it going? We'll look down to the bottom of this line. That's it. That's where it's going. And where it stops, if it aligns with an origin line, well, looky there. That's where it's going. Right? Yeah, it's not going to bottom. honestly, it could go a lot lower than this, but those would be my next two targets. And all the reasons why. From a short-term time perspective, I mean, technically, this has bounced on an origin line, even though it's one of the baby origin lines, but it's still a damn origin line. And it gets added some power because of this horizontal here that I've had since 2021, right? Late 2021, but still. So if it were to come back up and get let's go to like the 15-minute chart. I mean, Solana does have permission. So look, two important lines. Well, actually, no, I just kind of finagled that, so I can get rid of that. But it does have permission to come all the way back up here. And because there's a key horizontal right above it, that shouldn't be more than about 10% above. Yeah, so right at 10%. Solana technically has permission with origin line rules. It doesn't mean it has to. It has permission to hit 20 bucks. But I'm telling you, once it hits it, if I were in a Solana holder, that's where I would definitely become a seller. And honestly, I would begin becoming a seller closer to there. So that's a big potential run. And again, that it's not my analysis that it will go to these places. I'm saying it does have permission. And they're actually really reasonable targets, but it's a pretty damn big range. So for Solana, you have an extremely obvious event or a trigger that will trigger this to be on your radar. Like, hey, this might be happening. Right now, no, it's not. It hasn't been triggered. What is that trigger? This right here. Price gets back above this, 15 bucks, and uses it as support. So what that means is if the price of Solana skyrockets like this fashion here, all the way up to 16 bucks, what does that mean per what I just said maybe 15 seconds ago? It means it's going to come back down and touch it. It needs to use it as support before that's in play, period. Even if it's consolidating under here, it doesn't matter. It will have to come back down to test this neckline of the inverse head and shoulders, that's in play. Everything has an inverse head and shoulders right now. I don't like using pattern trading terminology, but everything has that right now. So it needs to use this as support first. And it's a nice round number, 15 bucks. Your breakdown point for Solana fans doing TA, copy this line and drag it out all directions, like to the beginning of price, drag it out like a year and a half, because it's going to be in play, probably in a year and a half, assuming Solana survives. Let me go to the 1 hour chart. And let me make this a little brighter for anybody who might want to cut, because this is going to be your trigger point to the downside. So the 1 hour candles on Thursday, November 10th. Those bounce on it perfectly. And then if you extend that to this candle wick here, so it formed the bottom, raced up to the top, and it's higher low. So 1, 2, it's the third green 1 hour candle, that the bottom of the wick. If you connect a line there and extend it in all directions, keeping it there, you're going to have your trigger point, and it's probably going to be a line you might want to keep on your chart because it's one of the origin lines. All right, your trigger point to the downside is this origin line. It's more likely than not going to have to use it as resistance before it heads down to this next area or back down to 12 bucks. But right now, 12 bucks is not the primary thing in play on the short-term time frames because it's above the origin line. So then one of the next two things that were going to happen is either you break above this and use it as support, or you break below this and use it as resistance. And we already know our target for the downside, or lower. It will hit this or lower with a very, very high likelihood, right? After this is resistance, not just falling below. It could go here, come back up, 8% run up, and then come down. and then we have the exact trigger point to the upside. We know it most very likely needs to use that support. And then if it can do that, we know where it's going to the upside. But until then, you're likely going to flop around in this triangle right here. Until Bitcoin and SPX move. It's just going to fill this out. And it's going to be very clear when it comes out of that triangle, that shape, based on my origin line, okay, is the bottom of it, and the macro horizontal, 15 bucks, is the top. The next move happens when it comes out of this triangle, and it's going to be very obvious. Just like Ethereum's price analysis, it's just so obvious right now because there are so many macro things in play, and they're very tight together. So honestly, playing Solana looks pretty damn decent too, especially that upside move. Woo, that could get dirty. Man, I just don't know if SPX and Bitcoin are going to allow this to happen. I mean, I could see this in play though. And that's your Solana, I guess, kind of long-term scope from the beginning of the video, and the short-term scope right here, and exactly how it will behave regardless of whether it goes sideways. It'll be in the black triangle. If it breaks out of that triangle, we know where it'll go and how it'll look. And if it breaks down below, we know how it'll look and to where it'll go minimum. Back down to 12 bucks. And that should get you through, I don't know, the next 5 to 10 days of Solana price action. You ask if Harmony won. I thought we went over this last time. Or maybe there were just multiple people asking about the same Harmony 1 levels. Oh, the reason I always have trouble finding Harmony 1 is because it's a color that my eye isn't catching. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's still in play. Yeah, all these are still in play for Harmony. So that first one's already been hit. So, and Bitcoin's not done going down in the stock market. If I had preference, the bottom two are better targets. Let me make sure they align with the average slope. I might need to adjust these. Interesting. I was being too generous with the time axis. There you go, right there. So the second one right here is the middle of December. This one right here, this origin line, if we were to hit it, that's late January, early February, 2023. All right. ICP, I don't think I want to cover that on YouTube. I'm sorry. I think ICP might be one of my bigger plays for bear market. And I'm going to try to only discuss that on Discord. However, if you are a Cryptillion tier member, was it DC? Yeah, you are. Yeah. I posted that. I posted ICP as well. But I don't want to cover it on YouTube. I don't want to, create. I don't want people front running me, essentially. All right. No, in Litecoin, there's so much liquidity that doesn't matter. That's why I was comfortable, doing 40 bucks. The bottom might be in all my targets. My videos with my, viewership isn't going to change Litecoin, but it could ICP because it's no one's trading it. It doesn't take a lot of money to change the chart. Its trading volume so low. It's literally moving with the exchange bots. It's pretty much the only things, just the wash trading is moving it. Okay, quant. All right, well, let's get it. I see a lot of tweets and activity about quant going back down to $45, this and that. I love being bearish. I get bearish more easily than the vast majority of crypto influencers across any platform, as my returning viewers obviously well know. With that bearishness, I'm going to show you why the chart does not agree. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think those low targets are going to happen. And you should be able to at least see what I'm seeing. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but you're going to see my doubt of those targets really ever being hit in this bear market. And honorary mention, I'm not for sure if quant is getting some, I guess, news pushed out, but it kind of feels like it's bringing a small wave of noobs to crypto, which is fine. I was a noob once too. Not saying noob in a bad way at all. Welcome. Like, honestly, handshake, welcome if you're new. But the reason I'm saying that is because the comments being left on my quant analysis videos are it just means like there are a lot of noobs in it and there aren't on the other ones, which is actually a good thing for the crypto. It means people who were not in crypto during the bull run are hearing about quant somehow. So that's, so I just said two bullish things about quant. I don't think those $45 targets are realistic. I'm going to show you why. Also, weird noob comments only on my quant videos. It seems like it's getting some exposure out in the real world. The most recent one was, even though I talked about a breakdown specifically from this horizontal, and that's specifically where it broke down from, but because I didn't say that was what was going to happen, before the FTX news, I made an analysis right before it, right? And because it did not interact more with this origin line here, I had a few people who clearly are new saying, "Oh, you were wrong on that. You're wrong on that." Well, yeah, I didn't. I mean, it was a news-driven, I guess, price movement. So I did not anticipate the FTX stuff coming out. And therefore, I did the timing of this drop from my exact line. It's not a coincidence it fell, and accelerated from here. It's an obvious line. But yeah, on the timing, of course not. So, but that was a noob comment because I think it was the day before the FTX thing. Of course not. All right, so let's dive in. Let me show you why I don't think $45 is a realistic target. For now, obviously that could change. So disclaimer, there are signals that could change, and you're also going to see that in here. But as of now, it's not realistic. All right. Here you go. So this is the lowest origin line that's ever been hit on quant. Quant is not very old, right? So this chart only goes back to 2021. Maybe I should be using a different chart. I don't know how old quant is. No, it's about the same. All right. And off of that bottom origin line, it had a massive rally. It seems to me what's going to be next is a macro higher low, meaning that this is bottom. I have a hard time seeing right now that this is going to go back below there. It looks like in general what's going to happen is this, and then maybe fill out a triangle, and then you go up later. So it keeps getting rejected by this for over a year and a half. And it stays in this triangle until 2023. I think that looks more realistic. Now, to argue with myself there, why, if you do this so many times on other altcoins, including Bitcoin, right? On Bitcoin, that red line, it had never really had a market cycle low below there. Bitcoin is 4 origin lines below that. So why can't quant go 1 below? And if you ask that question, it's a good question. You're right. It easily could. So when are you going to know? When it goes below that red one. That's it. But until it goes below that red one, I think the chart says it's more likely it's going to put in a higher low. But the cool thing about this is is I'm showing you exactly the moment of when I'll be wrong, if I'm wrong. Or no, you'll know the exact moment where the probabilities that my being wrong get higher, like 55, 60%. But it's convenient because I think it's gonna go to that line anyway. So at the same point, at the same line, depending on how price interacts with it, it will be highly probable that I'm correct. But if it behaves with it the other way, uses it as resistance, it becomes probable that I'm wrong at the same location. It just depends on how price behaves at that location. So it's similar to a 2-year-old, or no, sometimes it's like 18 months, 18 to 24 month kid. The probability of you getting an ice cream depends on you behave when we get there. Just like that. You're definitely going there, but we don't know if you're getting ice cream yet. We're gonna find out once we get there how you behave. It's the same thing. And that's your midterm outlook for quant, and honestly, potentially long-term outlook. Like I said, this is like June 2023 over here. It could easily happen. And, quant fans might, be, I don't know, not happy about this, but I'm telling you, what I'm telling you, let me be clear. What I'm telling you, even though this looks boring and, when is quant to the moon? No, this is bullish. Whether you agree with it or not, you would be wrong if you don't agree. In a bear market, if it really were to fill out this triangle, that is bullish. If you want this to go to $1,000 and beyond, you need to reset your expectations. You need to reformat your brain, like a floppy disk reformatting, or what do you call it? The external hard drives or whatever, memory, or hard drives. But you need to reformat your brain to the time axis. No moonage for quite a while. But a very, very bullish situation, even though it looks boring, and it kind of is. That is bullish, because all things are relative. Relative to a deep bear market, Bitcoin and crypto's first bear market ever in a stock market bear market. It's going to be bloodier than the last ones, almost like by default, which is also what I've been saying for a while. If quant can go against that and form a macro higher low here, around 78 to 94 bucks, that's exceedingly bullish. Now, how many origin lines down would have to go? Well, Bitcoin this cycle went 4 lower. So let's go see what that would mean. So we already put 2 on, because the dotted ones count as an origin line too. So if it does go 1, 2, 3, 4 on the average slope of this, so it would probably hit it on the, I would say near the middle of the average slope. Well, so yeah, I'd hit it about right there, actually. Yep, that's a big line. Huh. Interesting. Quant fans, you probably want this on your chart. Price is going to hit this and probably bounce off of it. Not reverse necessarily, but bounce. Oh my gosh, I just accidentally nailed a line that I need to be using on quant. Wow. Okay. I got lucky there. I didn't think about that until I accidentally did it. Well, maybe it won't hit it. Damn. Let's say it comes down, by December. Yeah, it could. I'm kind of thinking the next move down would be December. That would be a wick below this origin line. Touch it, then get back above the origin line, macro low. So wicks are allowed. The lowest I could see this going. Let's see, wicks below 66 bucks. But if it does go below this origin line here, and it happens in December, then your next target is probably going to be the top of this line, and it's probably going to bounce pretty hard. If it happens in December specifically. But if it doesn't happen in December, I don't think it's ever going to hit it again, because it's moving down at a pretty heavy slope. But this is in play until probably January. Right? So I guess in terms of figuring out, hey, if it does wick below this origin line and it does form a macro higher low here, how heavily will it wick? There you go. To that yellow or that rotated rectangle, which is the tool I used. Now, let's dive into what Quant's doing in the interim on the short-term time frames. I'm trying to see which origin line rules apply right here. It does have permission to go up. It would either, so if this origin line can get, so this is an if. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm saying price will behave like this when it gets above this line. And here's where it's going and why. Right? Look left here. This wick will be big. If price of Quant can get above here and use it as support and Bitcoin doesn't tank, the next target will minimum be this. It will, with a high probability, it will minimum hit that. However, it has absolutely full permission to hit that target as well before a pullback. So what this says is, if we zoom way in here, you will be able to see when that move is triggered. It's going to get above here and go like this and take out the punch high. It's usually how crypto move. It'll accelerate once it takes that out. Like, right, boom, 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 bam. That's when it would go. And it would bare minimum hit this horizontal right here. Will it happen in a 1 hour? No, not necessarily. I mean, hell, it could look like it's happening a few times, but keep touching this line. But that's fine. It's using it as support more and more, which would honestly increase the chance of it hitting this target. So that's your trigger for the upside. So right with this, you're going to have a middle point here. You're going to have a horizontal on... Honestly, I don't think it's a horizontal. This is moving with the slant. Yeah, Quant Price is slanted right now. So whatever algos are kind of dominating the volume on this, they are slanted. Which is not... For micro time frame, bottom patterns is not that common. The larger the time frame, the more like clear that that's what's happening. I would say that Quant has a 50% chance or higher to break above and hit those targets. I guess being one of the main options, as long as it's above that line. And currently that line is coming in at here. The farther away from this line it is, the more probable that it becomes. Where the probability flood happens, where it's extremely probable that these targets will be hit, is the case I just showed. However, the probability flip line, where it becomes improbable of happening, is this middle one. And this is also from where it would break down, and at bare minimum, like it would immediately initiate a move to here. Making sense? This is not an origin line. This is just kind of the middle of the little range that's going on. And that is how to keep smooth with watching Quant Price over the next 5 to 10 days. Oh, anniversary with crypto. No, my wife. Will Sol continue to exist? So Is and Van, I don't know. She must be a saint. Thanks, Brokoshi. That's funny. All right. KDA and Flux are, I pretty much can't leave until I would have like a riot on my hands, pitchforks and flames and torches and everything. If I did a live show without talking about Kadena. This is looking bad. Hold on. I want you to see what I'm looking at. I don't know what to tell you right now. I need a second to think about this. It's looking more aggressive sell pressure than what I had anticipated. Guys, there's really not a whole lot left to stop it for its next move down. Maybe 51. So 51's another big one. All right, I think I know what I'm going to say. This is looking kind of aggressive. Oh, I just messed up the there we go. All right, man, this is looking not good. Shit. All right, so bad news. Kadena is looking more sickly than even a bearish asshole like myself would have guessed. And I think I've kind of set the stage for the idea that my Kadena analysis, throughout this bear market has been pretty damn solid. If being daring enough to say, perhaps the best you could find on YouTube. I don't expect everybody to agree with that, but it's possible. Some believe that, right? Because, hell, look at the scrolling comments down below. And it has been pretty spot on. So, That is to say, I get bearish fast, and this is more bearish than what my bearishness would expect. And it's not looking good because it's getting to the point where there is nothing else to hold it up until a nice big plunge down. Like a big one. And it's going to happen soon. Like it's at that point. Literally. So let's dive in. I want to show you what to expect. This could go pretty deep. But I'll show you where it will go and how you can know when that is initiated. But once you see what I'm about to show you, you already know where it's going and why. But until you see what I'm about to show you, the trigger point, it's probably not going to happen, like on the micro time frames. However, given that the bear market's not over, it's probably going to happen. It's just a question of when, mostly. So let's go look at it. Man, yeah, I didn't expect it to quite do this. Man. So right now, price is being held up by this and only this. Okay? So you see how when it first came out, all the investment firms that held it and all the pre-sale people who, whatever, and maybe even the company founders or whatever, they just all sold their tokens to everybody, all retail buying it, right? So they can fund their project for the next several years. That's what that is. And you could see that buyers began at $1. Psychological number, big bounce. Okay. So $1 will be probably a big deal for a while. The next area buyers stepped in at the genesis of price is in this level here. So because this happened, it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy after it comes down that when it does come back to this level, even if it's going to be a bull market nasty move, the buyers who are pushing it up after the move down, they will stop buying there for a while to at least see how much the sellers take it, right? It's like taking a break. I'm going to beat you in a race, or no, in a boxing match. That's a better. So like, let's say at the beginning of the bull market, after it comes down, you're the better boxer, you're kicking butt. However, sometimes you need to take a break. So you're just going to defend yourself and, take some hits and keep your guard up. That's what buyers would do on the way back up. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in that way, right? So drag it over. I'm showing you why, like what is actually happening and how does it all happen? I'm telling you, like this is exactly what's happening. So beginning of the bull market, what happened? Hesitation. That's it. This happened exactly here because of that. Because there was nothing else to work off of. There were very few trading, there are few price bumpers. Yeah, you had fib lines, okay, and you had a few structure points. That's it. All right, here we go. So keep dragging it out. It's hitting that and an origin line. So what did I just say about a bull market and what buyers do at that level? They take a break, but they're the better boxer, kicking some ass, chewing some bubble gum and taking some names, collecting paychecks, buying Bitcoin. But a bear market, the bears are in control. What are they probably doing right now? Taking a break. Same thing applies in reverse, folks. So this could move sideways for quite a while, sure. But just realize this is the better boxer taking a break. So what could happen? This is the end of November when the December candle ticks. It might actually kind of saddle ride this, kind of like Bitcoin will be doing, but this is on top of its origin line. It's going to hover around this origin line potentially for, through early December. And once it starts coming back into this blue box with the assumption that it can't hold on to that, once it dives back into here, or even once it comes below the origin line, you already know it's coming straight here. So let's say through December, you see Cardano at 95 cents. When you see it go below that origin line, you know that what's happening. That's when that better boxer who's the bear starts punching again. Maybe not punching to kill or to knock out yet, but it will punch it down straight to there. The boxer will go for the knockout once Cardano price goes below this point right here. This is how it is going to happen with a very high likelihood. So the acceleration down to this next origin line probably won't happen until this point here. The way that there could be an exception to that, let's say it just comes here and falls off the cliff. Well, it's because there was a bull trap on Bitcoin and then it aggressively sold off 15% in a 15-minute candle. Or a 30 to 1 hour minute, 60-minute hour candle, right? It could fly through here, but without a flash sell-off of Bitcoin, the acceleration of the downside move will happen here at that point. And you know where it's going, to the next origin line down, at minimum. But here's the thing. So you see how this origin line had additional support with the horizontal? With the psychology that is self-fulfilling thing, okay? Right? There is no horizontal here. It could get a baby bounce, but you ain't reversing from there, boys and girls. It would do something weak and then head to the next one. And it honestly looks like it's going to hit 43 cents. That's in January. Now, what would we see in the chart if the probability of that situation happens becomes improbable? Because right now it's probable, I'm telling you. What would you need to see for it to be improbable? Which can happen. Probabilities change. It's not guaranteed to happen. It's just at this snapshot in time, that 2-year-old or 18-month-old who has temper tantrums at that age, right? Let's say you went to a festival outside, and at any moment in time, the probabilities of that child getting an ice cream based on good behavior, how it interacts, or how price interacts with an origin line, or how the 18-month-old is behaving, the probabilities can change. If he starts acting up, but not going crazy, well, the probabilities of getting ice cream is dropping, right? But if the kid is, doing backflips and, getting girls' phone numbers at 18 months old, dad's going to be proud, probabilities are going up, right? Okay, same thing. The probabilities are fluid at any snapshot in time. It's just the key of how do I know what the probability is at any snapshot in time? So as long as Cardano, let's say, is above this origin line, right? Let's call it I would say the second Tuesday. So the first Tuesday is here, second Tuesday is here. If it's still above this origin line by that day, because that's my target for Bitcoin following in SPX as well, by that, like around that time, plus or minus a few days. So I'm using the time axis here as well, and that's Tuesday, December 13th. If it's above, bouncing on this line by that point, that's when it becomes improbable that all that shit is going to happen. It's more likely that it doesn't happen, and that Cardano, will do something else. Because it would probably fundamentally change how deeply it goes, right? But until that line, if Cardano is around this origin line, it is still more probable that those targets, that situation is going to play out. If something radical happens, and it all, how could the probability of all that happening flip like soon? If you get a crazy bullish move, it's taking out this wick high and using it as support. Not just going above it, not just going above 113, but using 113 as support. That's also when, from the short-term time frame, an explosive move, that's when all that bear stuff would also become improbable. One is on the time axis dependent, one is horizontal dependent, could happen tomorrow. The probabilities can change. And that's how they would change. Those are the exact level. But until those things happen, it is more probable that what I just showed you, the bear stuff and those levels are going to be hit. Man, yeah, it's not looking very good for Cardano, but at least we know what we're looking for and what our targets are, right? I mean, because if you're a fan of Cardano, don't you prefer to buy it when it's cheaper? Yeah, like gas, petro, it's better when it's cheaper. You like it, not to drink, but to drive. I did not mean to use those two words in a sentence like that. That was not great, not a great sentence. But anyway, getting it to the upside, it's not super bullish just to be above this origin line. But it does become bullish come mid-December, because I already expect both Ethereum and Bitcoin to also behave similarly with their origin lines, which are in play, but rather use them as resistance, but regardless, just stay on them. So if Kadena simply follows those two, that doesn't change my analysis, and it doesn't change the probabilities until it gets to that point on time. That should keep you safe with Kadena Price. I mean, hell, potentially through the rest of the year. Flux. It doesn't look like it used this line as resistance on the way back up. I don't know, to me, this looks like, so even though I'm on the 5-minute chart, and technically there were a couple points, this line was resistance, all that, right? I guess, 1 point. However, on a larger time frame, this would be a wick down, and this is support. Look how exact this shit is. Flux is really following these lines well. Flux has permission to do some damage. And you're going to want to mix a horizontal with an origin line here. All right, so this is your zone of probability, being fluid here. Okay. Flux is respecting the hell out of my origin lines. I mean, hell, even more in Bitcoin, which is kind of weird. Usually altcoins, they don't respect it quite as perfectly as Bitcoin does because they have less price history. But man, Flux is just surely following these lines, and you won't find these lines anywhere else on the internet. Okay, so I'm really zoomed in. You can only see one origin line. And on my channel, we're thinking it was going to hit this and come up, right? So it nailed this bottom pretty damn well. It's behaving a little bit differently with this one. However, in general, I think it mostly used this as support. Like on the tiny, tiny candles, every time it approached this, it generally just got above. So this does have permission to go touch this neck. I mean, hell, it has technically origin line rules. It has permission to be bottomed here. It could. That is one of the valid options because of the way it behaved at this line, right? The analogy of the 18-month-old and ice cream. The probabilities of that kid getting ice cream at that fair depends at any moment in time how he's behaving. It behaved very well at this line. Even though it did go below, it behaved exceptionally well. So, however, the probability of it coming up to the next origin line is improbable until you at least get in this range here. I think this is the range where you're getting close to 50-50. And once price can get above this line, that's where, the probabilities flip in favor of it's going to charge up towards this next origin line. Does that make sense? But not until these exact moments. So these are the triggers for this line, origin line being a target for a big move from the top line to there, a 17% move. But that's not going to happen until this is triggered, right? So another option for this to behave, it can't go sideways for too long. Honestly, Flux is going to have to make up its mind unless it gets a fake out. So through the first 2 weeks of December, so what I'm about to say, the shelf life of this is a month. I honestly think this is setting up to do a fake out. It doesn't have to be a fake out up and then it slams down, but so this triangle, it's got to make up its mind at this 50-50 zone with the origin line. It can't just go sideways through here. That's not the way price moves, and it will not move that way. It will not. But it has to make up its mind a good 10 days before Bitcoin has to. And stock market. So just realize that even though this is a trigger, which allows this to be in play, if it happens kind of late, the later in this triangle, so the later in November it happens, the more likely it is to not get there, even though it was triggered, because on its way up, that's when Bitcoin and the stocks should be heading down. Does that make sense? So the sooner it can bust above this in that exact moment, after it busts above here or uses it as support and starts climbing, it has a better chance of hitting that. The later it busts up, the worse its chances are. It technically would have a slightly better than 50-50 shot, but every day later, you're increasing the chance that Bitcoin is taking the next leg down. And that could create a fake out, right? Without that even being the plan on the, a quant whales or whatever, an unplanned fake out. The initiation to the downside is just, it's respecting these origin lines. So that's what it's going to be. Once this is used as resistance, it will come back to this next origin line. That's it. So I showed you sideways movement, how long it can go sideways. It can't go sideways until December 1st. It can't. These are the rules. Trigger for upside move and where it'll go. Trigger for downside move and where it'll go. And that should keep you good to go. Honestly, that's probably about all you need on quant. Outside of trading 5-minute and 1-minute candles. But if you're trading 30 minutes and 1-hour candles or higher, that's pretty much all you need. Those are all the bumpers in play right now and all the trigger points, which will create volatility spikes in either direction. And those will be the bumpers. The origin line down here, and having used this as support, volatility will expand once those trigger points are hit, and that's it. All right, I think I got to get going. Let me make sure I didn't miss any super chats or something. Hey, thanks everybody who said happy anniversary. DCF. Oh, I'm drunk. Well, I was reading somebody's comment. The comment says I'm drunk. I don't know when Bitcoin will bottom. My guess has been February for a while. I can't do the long version of this. I just talked about this in my VIP live session before. It looks extremely probable that stocks will not have bottomed until late Q3 of 2023 or beginning of Q4 2023. I don't have time to do this on YouTube right now. But it looks very very probable. Yeah. And you're going to have to make two different guesses on Bitcoin. One, for if Bitcoin can separate or decouple from the stock market sometime before then. And during today's VIP call, we actually know the exact trigger point. It has to decouple at this moment or it won't decouple. We literally nailed it. Yeah, so if you're a VIP in Discord, I haven't uploaded it yet, but you need to watch that one. And I'll put that in the title. So if Bitcoin can decouple, then targets 9,600 and above. 9,600 to 12,700, 13K. Those are all good guesses. Good place to DCA. If Bitcoin cannot decouple, it's going lower. A lot lower. And it's going to be a longer bear market. a lot longer. I don't know which one's going to happen because Bitcoin has not ever existed in a stock market bear market. But I can say the win, it would be around September of 2023 when it would bottom, if it can't decouple. September through November 2023. All right. Well, it's my 14-year anniversary, so I got to go do anniversary things. And Thursday, same time, same place. We will see you there. And again, just anytime on my charts, if you just watch it and, but if you watch my videos and then also stare at charts and you're not copying my lines, you're not doing yourself a favor. Right? If you're a person who watches my analysis and doesn't look at charts on their phone or computer, okay, that makes sense. But if you're doing both, looking at your own charts of those coins like you ask for, and you're watching my videos, at least set my lines and put them in a folder, like over on this side of the screen, right? Put them in a folder. Well, there are no folders here, so I'm being a hypocrite. With all I know the emblems and stuff are mine, but you could roughly see this is the object tree. Put it in a folder so you can make them disappear. Kind of like this. Like stuff, disappear and it's the macro channel line behind me. But you probably need to, take the time to put the lines that I have for whatever coins you're interested in. It's going to help you so much more. And that's what I'm here for. And I know since I've essentially been trying to stress to people write this in, I've been getting more comments that, hey, I drew it in. Like, wow, that was a lot better. So if you just aren't a person who wants to do that because you're mostly on your phone, your best bet would be to have access to my live chart, the moving chart, and that is through the Cryptillion YouTube tier or any Discord